Welcome to a few moments together on the Parsha. This Shabbos, we have the privilege of reading Parshas Toledos. Although there's a lot going on in the Parsha, I'm going to focus on one short section in which it talks about Yitzchak's digging the wells that Avraham Avinu dug. Of course, digging wells is a very Jewish thing to do. It provides the very important liquid nourishment that the whole world needs in order to survive. And Avraham dug those wells, and now, after they were previously stuffed up by the previous generation of Plishtim, Yitzchak digs them again. And the pasuk says that Vayehi lo miknei tzon umiknei bakar, that Yitzchak was blessed, that he was given flocks of sheep and flocks of cattle, va'avudo rabbah, and a lot of wealth. Vayekanu oso Plishtim. And the Plishtim were jealous oso. They were jealous of him. Rav Shamshon Hirsch points out that the word kinah, jealousy, in connection with human beings, is only mentioned 4 times in the Chamisha Chumshei Torah. This is one of them. But here it says, Vayekanu oso Plishtim. If you go later on in Parshas Vayetze, when it talks about Rachel wanting to have a child just like her sister Leah had children already, the pasuk says, Vatera Rachel ki lo yolda Yaakov. Rachel saw that she did not give birth to any child for Yaakov. Vatekane Rachel ba'achosa. And Rachel was jealous in her sister. Not Vatekane Rachel achosa. Not that Rachel was jealous of the sister, but something in the sister, something about the sister. And furthermore, when we find in Parshas Vayeshev that the brothers were jealous of Yosef, the pasuk says, "Vayekanu bo echav, vayekanu vo echav." The brothers were jealous in him, not him, but bo in him. Why is it that in the first place here, when talking about jealousy, it says vatekane, that vayekane es? It uses the terminology that they were jealous as Yitzchak. They were jealous of the person. Well, when it comes to the other examples that we gave in Parshas, in Chumash Bereshis, it uses the beis instead of oso. There is one other place in the Torah where it talks about jealousy. And in that place, it's talking about the Isha Sota. And the pasuk says, V'orar Allah ruach kinah, in Parshas Naso, and it comes upon him a spirit of jealousy. V'kinei es ishto, and he has jealousy es, not be, but es. Why is it that in Naso it talks about the jealousy es ishto, which obviously is something that is very negative because it's brought about by virtue of immorality? And by Yitzchak, it says, Vayekanu oso Plishtim. And even though jealousy is bad no matter what, when it comes to the brothers, it says, Vayekanu bo echav. And when it talks about Rachel, Vatekane Rachel ba'achosa, not es achosa. What's the difference between the two? So Rav Shamshon Hirsch so beautifully explains. When they were jealousy of Yitzchak, they were jealous not just of what he had. You can be jealous sometimes. Well, I don't know if it's a good thing to be jealous at all, but if you're going to be jealous of something someone has, it doesn't mean you're trying to take it away from him. You wish you could have it also. I wish I could have that too. But it's not that you want to hate that person. You don't want to take that away from that person. You just wish you also had it. But when you're jealous of the person, Vayekanu oso Plishtim, when it came to Yitzchak, they were jealous of the person Yitzchak. The jealousy was manifested in the very existence of Yitzchak. When it comes to the Isha Sota, the husband's rightful jealousy over the assumed infidelity is angry at the wife that he suspects was disloyal to him. It's not just that he was jealous of the other person who was causing the infidelity. He was jealous of his own possession, his own life partner, who treated him in a way that forced the jealousy to come out at the person, because there was a lack of consideration of the unique kedusha that pervades between a husband and wife. So Rav Shamshon Verlosh is pointing out to us there's a difference between being jealous of something that someone has, which of course is not necessarily a good thing, but it's not that you're disliking the individual. You're just disliking the situation, that you're not getting as much privilege. And so we find that starting with Yitzchak, even though Avram was considered Nasi Elokim Atov V'Sochenu, and even though the Jewish people, until that point in Avram's time, Avram himself was respected by all, by Yitzchak it already started to be reduced. And the hate and jealousy that came from that point on was against the individual Jew, Yitzchak, and finally Yaakov, who is subject to slavery, punishment, murder, attempts to wipe out because of the jealousy in the individual, not just of the good things that a person has. Sometimes there are rich people in this world, and the wealth that those people have is many times beneficial to all of society because it builds up and makes the economy and the people strive to become better and perhaps also achieve. But when you hate an individual for something, that jealousy is pernicious and self-destructive, and it causes nothing but ill will in the world at large. We need to recognize how important Parshas Toledos is when it tells us that Yitzchak is going to be the one who is going to inherit the land. And in fact, he digs wells in the land and he builds up the land. And the hate was against the individual, not just against what he did, but against the individual. And we have to recognize that the Jewish people need to overcome that. And that's why in Parshas Bechukosai, when it talks about the fact of Zacharti es brisi Yaakov, v'af es brisi Yitzchak, v'af es brisi Avraham ezkor, v'ha'aretz ezkor, Hashem is saying, I'm remembering the individual. I'm remembering the hate that was foisted upon the individual Jews over all the centuries. And eventually, Hashem promises us he's going to remember that, v'ha'aretz ezkor. And he will remember the land too, because the promise that Hashem made to Abraham for Yitzchak and Yaakov and all the Jewish people is eventually going to come true. And we see the origins of it in this week's Sedra. Hashem should bless Klal Yisrael that when we enter just now on Rosh Chodesh, yesterday on Friday, well, really it's not going to be Friday, it's going to be a few days from now as I'm making this video, but this Shabbat, this Friday, Erev Shabbos, we have a new month of Kislev, and we're talking about Hanukkah and reestablishing the bright lights of the Jewish people. We hope and pray that the jealousy is taken away from the individual and recognize the contribution that Klal Yisrael is giving to the world, making it such a wonderful place, giving us so many standards of excellence, of morality, of truth, of caring, of concern of our fellow man, to constantly not be jealous of the individual and not to hate the person, but rather to recognize our own needs and to soften them and to share with the rest of the world all the bounty that Hashem has given us. I want to wish everyone a wonderful Shabbat Shalom U'Varach and take the beautiful lesson of Parshas Toledos that Hashem promises that he's going to remember the promise to Abraham, to Yitzchak, and to Yaakov. And even though it's in the reverse order in Bechukosai, it works out that Hashem will remember the land too. And we shall all be remembered for good in Yetz Hashem, and we will see the coming of Mashiach. B'mheira v'yameinu. Shabbat shalom u'mevarach.